Good evening and welcome to NNX, where we give you the news faster than you can eat a bowl of mac and cheese. I'm Callie Proctor.
And I'm Taylor Hancock. Let's dive into tonight's stories. We begin tonight with major actions taken by the new Trump administration to address immigration. The immigrant community in Chicagoland is on edge over potential deportation raids orchestrated by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE officers. Here in Evanston, local leaders assured immigrants that they will do everything they can to protect them if those raids do happen in the area. At a Know Your Rights workshop last night, local leaders tackled policy changes under the new Trump administration. Evanston updated its welcoming ordinance at a city council meeting last week to expand safeguards for the city's immigrant community. Here's what Mayor Daniel Biss had to say about Evanston's plan for the next 4 years.
I understand why people are scared. I don't blame people for being scared, but know that we as a community are going to wrap our arms around you. We'll do everything we possibly can to help, and we're willing to put ourselves at risk for anyone here who's under attack because that's what our values demand.
NNN's Lance Wilhelm was at the workshop last night, and he joins us now in the studio. Lance, thanks for being here. What have Evanston officials said about what it can do as a city to protect its residents?
Well, yeah, Taylor, first of all, you see giving them the resources that they need through things like the workshop that occurred last night, letting people know what they can do to protect themselves in the heat of the moment. And then also, a lot of what the city can do to protect immigrants is actually what they won't do. They made it very clear that they will not coordinate with ICE or federal authorities in terms of gathering undocumented persons in the area, which is something that they're able to refuse.
And what can those who are worried about being deported do to protect themselves?
Yeah, well, namely, it's a lot of things that people forget. Basic rights like your right to remain silent, your right to a lawyer, and of course, and this was key, they brought it up several times in yesterday's workshop, the right to refuse entry to ICE officers if they don't have a warrant signed by a judge. That's key. Now, although there are some things, like I just mentioned, that people can do to mitigate some risks, that doesn't eliminate the risk as a whole. If a ICE officer approaches someone who is undocumented with a warrant signed by a judge and tries to detain them, at that point there is nothing that can be done.
Thanks, Lance. Tune in later tonight on the Northwestern News Report for more updates.
President Trump's first full day of his second term is wrapping up following his inaugural address yesterday. As the United States enters this new era of politics, the civically engaged Northwestern community is reacting to the new administration's policy goals. With President Trump's inauguration falling on Martin Luther King Day, students paid rapt attention to his first speech as the nation's 47th president. Students listened for policy departures from campaign promises on hot-button topics such as immigration.
I think one of the biggest concerns that I have personally is like the idea that Trump has no real, true ideals on immigration. He just does what other people tell him to.
Other students tuned into the address because they were curious about what the next few years will mean for America. We will continue to cover the Trump administration's actions and their impacts on the Northwestern community in the coming weeks.
TikTok may be back online, but many student content creators are worried about the app's future. TikTok went dark for 14 hours over the weekend, but it's up and running again as President Trump pushes for a U.S. company to take ownership of the app. While the future is still uncertain for some have turned to other platforms like RedNote, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts. With many advertisements and paid creator programs on TikTok, some students are worried for creators who may lose money.
I don't really make money off of TikTok, but there's so many small businesses that their advertising is through TikTok, or maybe sending PR to an influencer and then posting about it. So I definitely think that by getting rid of it, there's a lot of people are gonna lose a lot of money that they need.
We'll continue to update you as we discover what's next for TikTok.
And Evanston is finding new ways to honor civil rights leaders' work in this year's Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebrations. This past Saturday, dozens came together at Evanston's Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center to not only remember MLK, but the women who played major roles in the movement as well. The event featured community performances highlighting African art from a female perspective. Some of those who participated in the event said that they appreciated its unique focus on the contributions of Black women.
It was so inspiring. I feel like we don't hear about those women, we don't see them, but we saw them today in our audience and on our stage.
Evanston's MLK Day celebrations continued on Monday with the city's Walk for Warmth, raising awareness for unhoused members of the community.
Northwestern is reporting a knockout year in its annual financial update. The report was released last week with $50 million in operating performance to support renovations like Ryan Field. Net assets increased to $15.6 billion, marking Northwestern's second most successful fundraising year. Going forward, NU is keeping an eye on the rising cost of tuition.
Fans who try to score parking in neighborhoods near Welsh Ryan Arena are in bad luck. With Northwestern basketball games bringing thousands to the area, there's a surplus of vehicles and not enough space for them. Evanston City Council passed an ordinance last month to restrict parking during Northwestern events. Game day parking on residential streets will cost non-residents $125, and the city plans to install signs with QR codes that link to a website telling visitors when the restrictions are in place.
So if it's not ready for this basketball season, it will be for next year.
Residents will still be able to park on their streets by purchasing a $30 resident parking pass.
The NCAA Division I Women's Lacrosse Championship is coming to the shores of Lake Michigan. Northwestern will host the 2026 semifinals and the national championship games at Northwestern Medicine Field at Martin Stadium next May. It will be the first time the championship is played in the Midwest and outside the Eastern time zone. The Cats lost in the national championship game last year after claiming the program's 8th NCAA championship in 2023. The lacrosse team will begin the 2025 season as they face off against Notre Dame on February 7th.
America's largest student-produced musical is back. You can catch the Dolphin Show's performance of Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella at Conn Auditorium this weekend. But first, NNN's Talia Jackson dives into all the work that went on behind the scenes.
Costumes, construction, painting, and more. The Dolphin Show is doing it all to bring magic to the stage for Cinderella.
Just being able to see the beginning sketches of the process really made me realize everything in the show kind of came from scratch.
Planning for the show began nearly a year ago. For set designer Sam Webster, her vision started with a Pinterest board, then a 3D rendering, and finally, construction.
We start building during what we call Winter Build Hell Week, and that happens at the end of fall quarter in the first week of winter break.
Those 7 days of intensive labor bring all of the Dolphin Show members together.
During winter build, everyone who's here is doing little bits of everything. So sometimes you'll see marketing assistants working on the set, you'll see scenic assistants working with props. It's a whole lot of people.
Set construction is just a small piece of the action. The team has spent months working on marketing, budgeting, and outreach too.
It's really more than a year-long process, whereas people only see show for 2 hours maximum.
As the show opens this weekend and actors start final rehearsals, it's crunch time for everyone involved.
And then we're all kind of playing Tetris around each other to get things done.
And they do. The 82nd annual largest student-produced musical in the U.S. is almost ready to put Cinderella on stage.
I hope that people, whether or not they have theater experience, can see all the work that's put in and just feel a sense of admiration or a sense of awe, the same way that I do.
At Conn Auditorium, Talia Jackson, Northwestern News Network.
If you'd like to see the show, tickets are available on the Dolphin Show's website and NU box offices. So, Taylor, what are your thoughts about the show? Are you planning on going out and seeing it?
I'm really excited for the Dolphin Show. I think, Cinderella, she's probably top 3 best princesses, but I think mine has to be Tiana for sure. What about you, Callie?
That's so fair. My favorite princess growing up was probably Snow White, so...
Good choice.
Yeah,
That's a very good
I am
choice.
excited for the show, though. I do want to go out and see it.
Me as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's all the time we have for tonight. I'm Callie Proctor.
And I'm Taylor Hancock. Stay tuned for the Northwestern News Report. Have a good night.